Okay, so Hare Krishna. We are going to read from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 3, Chapter 5, Text 15. I'm going to hide myself, so I'm not distracted. Okay. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
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 Narayanam Namaskrityam Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudiraye. Before reciting the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is the very means of conquest, one should offer respectful obeisances unto personality of Godhead Narayan, unto Narayan Rishi, the supremmost human being, unto Mother Saraswati, the goddess of learning, and unto Shah Vyasadeva, the author. Nasta prayeshu abhadreshu nityam bhagavata sevaya bhagavati uttama shloke bhaktir bhavati naishtiki. So, text 15 of chapter 5. Tat asya koshara vasharmadatur.
Tat asya koshara vasharmadatur.
Hare katam eva kata susaram.
Hare katam eva kata susaram.
Udhritya pushpebhya ivartat bando.
Udritya pushpebhya ivarta bando.
Shivayana kirtaya tirta kirtehe.
Shivayana kirtaya tirta kirte.
Tat asya koshara vasarmadatur.
Tad asya koshara vasharmadatur.
Harer katam eva kata susaram.
Hare katam eva kata susaram.
Udhritya pushpebhya ivarta bando.
Udritya pushpebhya ivarta bando.
Shivayana kirtaya tirta kirtehe.
Shivayana kirtaya tirta kirte.
Tatasya koshara vasharmadatur.
Tad asya koshara vasharmadatur.
Hare katam eva kata susaram.
Hare katam eva kata susaram.
Udritya pushpebhya ivarta bando.
Udritya pushpebhya ivarta bando.
Shivayana kirtaya tirta kirte.
Shivayana kirtaya tirta kirte.
Tatasya koshara vasharmadatur.
Tadasya koshara vasharmadatur.
Hare katam eva kata susharam.
Hare katam eva kata susaram.
Udritya pushpebhya ivarta bando.
Udritya pushpebhya ivarta bando.
Shivayana kirtaya tirta kirte.
Shivayana kirtaya tirta kirte.
Tadasya koshara vasharmadatur.
Tadasya koshara vasharmadatur.
Hare katam eva kata susaram.
Hare katam eva kata susaram.
Udritya pushpebhya ivarta bandho.
Udritya pushpebhya ivarta bando.
Shivayana kirtaya tirtha kirte.
Shivaya na kirtana tirtha kirtehe. Tadasya kosha madatu.
Tadasya kosha ravasarmadatu.
Hare katam eva kata susharam.
Hare katam eva kata susaram.
Udritya pushpebhya ivarta bando.
Udritya pushpebhya ivarta bandho.
Shivaya na kirtaya tirtha kirtehe.
Shivayana kirtaya tirtha kirte.
Anyone else would like to chant? Okay, so we are going to do the word from word. Tat,
Tat,
therefore,
therefore,
asya,
asya,
his,
his,
kosharava,
kosharava,
O Maitreya,
O Maitreya,
Sharmadatu,
Sharmadatu,
O one who awards good fortune,
of one who awards good fortune,
Hare,
Hare,
of the Lord,
of the Lord,
Katam,
Katam,
topics,
topics,
Eva,
Eva,
only,
only,
Katasu,
Katasu,
Tastu,
of all topics,
of all topics,
Saram,
Saram,
the essence,
the essence,
Udritya,
Udritya,
by quoting,
by quoting,
Pushpebhya,
Pushpebhya,
from the flowers,
from the
from the
flowers,
Eva,
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 like that,
like that,
Artabando,
Artabando,
O friend of the distressed,
O friend of the distressed,
Shivaya,
Shivaya,
for welfare,
for welfare,
Na,
Na,
of us,
of us,
Kirtaya,
Kirtaya,
kindly described,
kindly described,
Tirtha,
Tirtha,
pilgrimage,
pilgrimage,
Kirte,
Kirte,
of glorious.
of glorious.
Translation, O Maitreya, O friend of the distressed, the glories of the Supreme Lord can alone do good for people all over the world. Therefore, just as bees collect honey from flowers, kindly describe the essence of all topics, the topics of the Lord. Purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. There are many topics for different persons in different modes of material nature, but the essential topics are those in relationship with the Supreme Lord. Unfortunately, materially affected conditioned souls are all more or less averse to the topics of the Supreme Lord because some of them do not believe in the existence of God and some of them believe only in the impersonal feature of the Lord. In both cases, there is nothing for them to say of God. Both the non-believers and the impersonalists deny the essence of all topics. Therefore, they engage in topics of relativity in various ways, either in sense gratification or in mental speculation. For the pure devotees like Vidura, the topics of both the mundaners and the mental speculators are useless in all respects. Thus, Vidura requested Maitreya to talk of the essence only, the talks of Krishna and nothing else. Om Jnanatimirandhasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chaksurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Svayam Rupa Kadamahayam Dadanti Svapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yutapada Kamalam Shri Gurum Vaishnavam Scha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatam Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parichana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padam Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishagam Vitam Scha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gourange Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanusute Devi Pranamami Hare Priye Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripasindhubhya evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadara Shri Vasari Gora Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swaminiti Namine Namaste Sarasvate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pashyatya Deshatarine. Okay, so let's begin. O Maitreya, O friend of the distressed, the glories of the Supreme Lord can alone do good for people all over the world. Therefore, just as bees collect honey from flowers, kindly describe the essence of all topics, the topics of the Lord. Okay, so well, I just. Okay, so my husband just decided now to climb the roof. I feel a little disturbed, but I guess it's okay. And I prepared 2 classes for this one verse. So it's a little interesting. I don't really know where to go with it because it's not like I prepared 1 long class, but 2. And yes. So the glories of the Supreme Lord can alone do good for the people all over the world. So as I was preparing for the class, I was reading from Nectar of Instruction, how Rupa Goswami speaks about the 6 loving exchanges between the devotees. And it's giving and receiving gifts, and giving and revealing and receiving the mind in confidence, and then giving and receiving prasadam. And I was reading how Prabhupada described the different assets, not all of them, some of them. And so, like do good for people all over the world. So the giving and receiving gifts, Prabhupada describes and giving the holy name. Actually, Prabhupada speaks in the purport about Lord Chaitanya and like having even the tigers and the deers and other animals singing and chanting in kirtan because of the potency of Lord Chaitanya. And Prabhupada says this is the giving. That's the giving between the devotees. That's the gift. That's the gift that the devotees can give to each other, and also to every other living entities. Like when we chant, Prabhupada says in that purport, when we chant, all the living entities that hear it get benefit. Even though we might not have the same potency as Lord Chaitanya, and we will not see the blade of grass starting to sing Hare Krishna when they hear us, but it doesn't mean that there is not this tremendous benefit happening. So the giving and receiving gift is all about giving and receiving the topics about Krishna Katha. And this verse is all about that Vidura is asking the essence of all topics, and that's Krishna. And then Prabhupada says in the purport that Vidura and Maitreya, they want only to speak about Krishna and nothing else. So I actually found out also the meaning of the Gyam Akyuti Pichati, which I will read now. And it's, Prabhupada described it only in 1 sentence. One should inquire about the Krishna consciousness movement and open his mind in order to understand the situation of this material world. Thus, the Gyam Akyuti Pichati principles can be served. So right there, really all the 6 exchanges between the devotees are all about Krishna. They are exchanging the holy name. They are exchanging questions about Krishna and the responses about Krishna. They are exchanging, speaking about Krishna. And then, of course, they are exchanging Krishna prasadam. So that's what Maitreya and Vidura are doing here. And I had an experience in Vrindavan where like I'm sure there was other kata than Krishna kata, but at least that wasn't my experience. I only experienced, okay, Krishna kata is speaking about Krishna. And then there is, I don't know what's the word for the material kata. That's a different kata. Well, anyway.
Ramya.
How?
Ramya.
Gramya Kata.
Ramya kata. Okay. So I only experience, if I don't count my mind, which is a different conversation, I only experience Krishna kata and Krishna's holy names everywhere. And it was like going on the street with big crowds, and then someone would like greet me, Jaya Radhe, and I would respond, Jaya Radhe. And then all the people who would hear it, who were like close enough to hear, they would respond, Jaya Radhe, and then it would go like wave, because then the people who were like near the people who responded to the response would respond, and then someone else would start the new way, and it's just like, and I felt like so many times so much love for Krishna that I never experienced in Czech Republic. Yeah, like, and like, so every day, like tears of love sprang from my eyes, and it wasn't like, I feel it was really like the wave, like the people like kind of carrying each other, the devotee association, like carrying each other. Like if I come into the room and there is everyone grieving, I come in the room, in the middle of the room, and everyone is going to be grieving there, then naturally I will start to feel sad. If I come in the room and everyone is fighting in anger, naturally I will start to feel angry, because we are conditioned souls. So we like conditioned by our conditions. And we like, even though we are aspiring for being so attached to Krishna that we are independent on our conditions. We are like getting freed from the conditional life by being attached to Srila Prabhupada and Shri Krishna, and like independent of the association. It's the nature of the conditioned soul is to be affected by the association. And I experienced that strongly, the Vrindavan association, how it like just carries one. There is even science about it, like a sympathicus, you know, sympathy, right? Sympathy, you know, the word sympathy. It's kind of like someone is grieving and I jump and grieve with them. So it's natural. It's like a natural tendency, because for like all the social animals, that's the science, all the social animals, including human beings, they have something which is called sympathicus. It's autonomic nervous system. And the science have proved that this autonomic nervous system is like kind of like tuned into the emotional experience of those around me. And we know that, like we know what others around us are experiencing, even though it might be very unconscious or subconscious, but we know it because it's working. So the association, like if you want to speak about Krishna, the association is important, because the 6 exchanges of devotional service, there is always one hearing, like one is asking the question and the other one is responding. And the ideal situation that happens when both are qualified, or the giving and receiving gifts, like giving the holy name and receiving the holy name. The ideal situation is when both are qualified. And of course, that's not always a situation here. So I want to share another of my experience with this devotee association, and that's from Alachua. Not quite as ecstatic as Sri Vrindavan Dham, sorry. But I have a similar experience there of like practicing devotional life, like very easy to be like connected and like experiencing enthusiasm for devotional service and kind of like being carried like being carried, like not have to put a lot of effort to keep it going. I mean, when there is like say morning programs, like I've been to Alachua in times when we had like very rarely programs, and then the experience wasn't quite the same, because the devotee association is not like, oh yeah, I chant 16 rounds, you chant 16 rounds. So whatever we do together and whatever we speak about together, I guess that's devotee association. Not really. So of course there is like a greater potential for it, but it doesn't always happen that way. So the question like naturally comes like, okay, why not to move to Vrindavan? Why not to move to Vrindavan? Or like why not to only always be in the association of the devotees and with the holy name? And so one thing is that maybe I don't really want to do it. Maybe I have some other interests than Krishna. But also like putting that aside, like that maybe we are not like really ready to do 24 hours a day of Krishna Katha, chanting the holy name, reading Srila Prabhupada books. But so then I was like thinking of like Arjuna, for example. So Arjuna is on the battlefield of Kurukshetra, and there is the big battle going to happen. And actually even Arjuna has these ideas, like I want to go to the forest or something. So Arjuna could also say like, Krishna, I'm going to Vrindavan. I'm not fighting this battle. I'm going to Vrindavan because they are the covered boys and the gopis, and they are all always remembering you and speaking about you. So I will be there and I will remember you fondly. And you can be here and fight this battle, or whatever. So that's not what Krishna recommends to Arjuna to do. Actually, Arjuna has some other responsibilities, and it's his service to do his other responsibilities for Krishna, and that means like fighting the battle at Kurukshetra and thinking of Krishna all the while doing it. And Krishna says to Arjuna, and if you go to the forest, if you go to the forest, you will fight there anyway. Because that's your nature, that's your propensity, and you cannot get away from it. So better that you engage it for me in my service than just like whimsically saying like, oh, I go to forest or I go to Vrindavan and I will be just like absorbed in Krishna Katha and I'm liberated. It's kind of selfish also. And in that connection with Arjuna, I also thought of other two personalities. One is Bharat Maharaj. So Bharat Maharaj is a king, and he renounces his kingdom and he's going to the forest. So, this is like my speculation, but I will go there, and I hope that I will not like offend a pure devotee like a Bharat Maharaj. But so he's doing what Arjuna wanted to do. Like he has his responsibilities, the kingdom, and he goes to the forest. And what happens to him in the forest is he forgets Krishna and gets attached to the deer. And actually the exact thing that Krishna was warning Arjuna against happened to Bharat Maharaj, because his propensity to like take care of someone and provide protection, like takes over him. So even though he's in the forest, he cannot help his nature, which is to be the king, giving the shelter, giving the protection. And so that like carries him away from Krishna, and he's doing his nature anyway, but he's doing it in the forest and maybe a little like outside what his duty would have looked like. He's like, oh, my dear son, that he's calling the deer like, my dear son, what happened to you? So we see like, okay, he left his duties and got a little too much into the deer thing. And then of course, as the story unfolds, he is the deer the next life, and then he's Chat Bharat, and then he goes back to Godhead. So it's not bad.
It's not bad. But and then second personality that came to mind with Arjuna is Bhishma Dev, because he's like in a similar position as Arjuna, just that he's on the other side of the battlefield of Kurukshetra, so he's fighting against Krishna, but it's also his service, and they have like this fighting relationship with Krishna. We just read it. We finished the pastime in our morning programs here. It's so nectarian, this pastime, Bhishma fighting with Krishna and getting Krishna to break his commitment not to fight on the battlefield of Kurukshetra, and like being so happy to see Krishna's angry face, like Krishna is furious, angry with Bhishma, he wants to protect Arjuna, and Bhishma is like, yes, I made Krishna so angry and furious, and I can see his like angry face like that. So they are relishing this exchange, this fighting exchange. It's described, and Krishna was hurt by Bhishma's arrows. He felt it like kisses from a lover, because they just have fun. Like I imagine it like when little boys are fighting and just fun. So of course Krishna and Bhishma Dev, they are not so attached to the material bodies, so they don't mind when the bodies get a little. Well, Krishna doesn't even have a material body. Bhishma not really either. So they can. It's like a fight. And so there was one verse that I want to read to you that kind of struck me. So Bhishma and Krishna, they are also on the battlefield of Kurukshetra together, different role than Krishna. Arjuna is Krishna's friend on the battlefield of Kurukshetra and his boss, quotes. And Bhishma Dev is his enemy, also in quotes, because they know they came there to like fight together for like the rasa, relishing that rasa. So after that, there is the scene that Bhishma Dev is about to leave his body, and he's on the bed of arrows, and Krishna and Maharaj Yudhishthir and all the Pandavas and all the demigods, they come to see this great personality preparing to leave his body. And so Bhishma Dev, he like appreciates everyone and express his compassion towards the Pandavas, that they went through so much, and he's instructing Maharaj Yudhishthir about Krishna and how to rule the kingdom. And then the time becomes right. Bhishma Dev is also a great yogi. He's a pure devotee, so that includes he's a great yogi. So he's like the sun is like moving to the right hemisphere for an auspicious departure. So then what happens is, thereupon that man who spoke on different subjects with thousands of meanings, and who fought on thousands of battlefields and protected thousands of men, stopped speaking, and, being completely freed from all bondage, withdrew his mind from everything else and fixed his wide open eyes upon the original personality of Godhead, Shri Krishna, who stood before him, four-handed, dressed in yellow garments that glittered and shined. So, like we know that Bhishma Dev is a pure devotee his whole life, and he is always thinking of Krishna, and everything he's doing for satisfaction of Krishna. But then we still know, like, he spoke on like subjects with thousands of meanings, and he fought on thousands of battlefields and protected thousands of men. Like, he did so much. And then at the time of like leaving his body, then he's fixing his mind only on Krishna. And so, like, going back to the discussion, like, why not to do Krishna Katha 24/7? Apart from the reason that maybe, if I'm really honest, I don't want to do it. It's also these great personalities like Arjuna, Bhishma, Parikshit Maharaj, they are having other responsibilities on this earth. Like Parikshit Maharaj is ruling the whole entire earth, So we can imagine there is like a lot of things that he needs to take care of, like different bureaucracy and different people coming to complain about some things, and he's going his tours to like look how the people are acting in the kingdom, and whether everyone is like living the righteous life, and whether the cows are protected. It's like such a headache, you know. And then he has wives and the children and like the tax collectors, and he's like overseeing everything that's going. And he's not like Parikshit Maharaj. He's not like a king that would be like, you know, sitting on his throne and meditating on Krishna and do nothing. He's like really actively ruling the kingdom. And same Bhishmadev, he's the head of the army. So he's like thinking like, who is going to be, I have no words in English for like how to lead the battle. But he says, okay, this group go there and this group go there from behind. And that's how we will like, he's like thinking of the different strategies and leading the people and all of it. So there is like, it's all in service to Krishna, and the devotee is always like fully aware of it and absorbed in it. But then when the time of death comes, like Parikshit Maharaj, then it's like, okay, I don't do any of this extra service anymore, and I'm only doing the Krishna Katha, like Maitreya and Vidura. Like I don't want any of these affairs, like who is like fighting at which position, and whether the soldiers on the horses are going to gallop or just trot, and the elephant. No, it's just like, no, now I'm only focusing on Krishna. But at the meantime, there is like activities in Krishna consciousness, and it's very rich. It's very rich, and there is a lot of varieties. And as Srila Prabhupada says, one who thinks that everything is Maya is in Maya. So we like need to understand that, okay, there is like I would say, like the clear Krishna Katha, and as the great devotees that I mentioned choose to do at the time of leaving this earth. But then before that, there is, I would say it's also Krishna Katha, it's pure devotional service for sure, but it looks externally like something completely different, you know. Externally it can look quite mundane, but because of the heart, it's not mundane. So of course we don't have to go like 5,000 years back to see the examples like this. So like Bhaktivinoda Thakur being the magistrate and having 13 children and doing the trials and all these things. Also we can see, okay, there is like so many like things to think of during the day, like, or Srila Prabhupada, when like in his Grihastha life, he has 5 children or 4, I don't know, and then he had the business and so many things, and his sister, and so many things he was taking care of, and it never take them away from Krishna. So that's the difference from us, because we kind of like, some of us didn't do the 25 years of brahmachari life that would prepare us to go into grihastha life and like have like the natural, like a second nature of like, of course I'm doing everything for Krishna because I practice for 25 years of my life. So sometimes we are kind of in our position with the different duties, and the habit of the mind to think, to like be fixed. This is to please Krishna, this is to please my spiritual master, is not so much there. So we need to like think and act a little differently than the pure devotees from this point of view. And Srila Prabhupada is giving us the sandwich program with the morning program and evening program that's like sandwiching our middle day activities, whatever those are, that we gradually also come to the ability to know everything I am doing 24 hours, and it might look very many different ways. It's also my service to Krishna. I'm doing it to please Krishna. So I was thinking like, okay, if it wasn't for Srila Prabhupada, I would be divorced like 20 of times or 100 of times. I mean, really, I would be divorced once. But if it wasn't for Srila Prabhupada, there were like so many times that I would not even like think about it anymore and just go ahead and do it. So, so where I'm going with this. So obviously my marriage is a service to Krishna, because maybe at the beginning I wasn't realized enough to do it for Krishna. You know, maybe I have like so many things in my life that I got into my life for my sense gratification. And then those things turned out not to be so gratifying. But whatever, I know that like, and I'm glad that I'm still married, and our relationship did improve through the years. I wouldn't want to marry now, divorce now. I wouldn't want to divorce now. But I know that without Srila Prabhupada, it wouldn't be possible. And so that's like a proof, at least like somewhat, that this marriage is for Srila Prabhupada's pleasure, because it would be very displeasing for him if this marriage stopped. And so when I was in Vrindavan, I was going every day to chant Hare Krishna with Srila Prabhupada at Radha Damodar temple. And I had many questions on Srila Prabhupada, and my main question was like, what is my service, Srila Prabhupada? How can I please you? What is my service? And most of the time, the response I would get was like, you came here to chant or disturbed with questions. So I was trying to focus on my chanting. And I knew from Srila Prabhupada that all my questions will be resolved automatically from that chanting. And sometimes I would still go to that questions, and I felt like being slapped. Like, you know, focus on chanting. Don't ask. These questions are just a distraction. And really, most of the questions I had were just a distraction. But how to serve you, I feel it was an important one, and I got realizations on it in Vrindavan. And my realization was that I am already serving Srila Prabhupada. That like it's just the Western mind that always want to do something different, something like extra, some like progress, change something. But I am already having so much service for Srila Prabhupada. And it was just like, you know, do what you do, and like, maybe it doesn't have to be so chaotic with like all the different new ideas and new projects. And then I get like so like distracted from focusing. And okay, so do what you already do. That was clear. And one thing that was clear, even though I didn't like it too much, was, and you are married. It's your service for me to be married to Yogeshwara and be good wife to him. And so I know it's true. And interestingly, since then, in my personal reading, I was reading so much about like Srila Prabhupada speaking about the influence of the wife on the husband. Like normally I would read like the wife is the witch, or, you know, the wife is like the stone on the husband's head, or, you know, she's like, but whatever. But since then I got that instruction. I mean, that's a clear instruction for a long time. I just didn't want to see it. But since then, everywhere I read from Srila Prabhupada, he's like saying how the woman, like she's like so important for the husband, that she gives him inspiration and she gives him the enthusiasm and like the energy for a life and all these things. And of course, if the wife is not a very good wife, then she makes the family life miserable for everyone. But if the wife is like treating the husband with care and with great respect and like supportive of him, then the husband is really thriving. And then naturally he reciprocates with the wife. And also he's empowered. He's empowered. The woman is really like powerful in that way. She's in one of the people, Srila Prabhupada even says she is like a mystic. She has like a mystic power, the woman. She's so, yeah. I'm trying to remember in which, yeah, this was when we were reading about Sita. That's the wife of Ravana, I don't remember the name of wife of Ravana, but she knew when Ravana. You want to say the Govinda Prabhu? You are muted.
Her name is Mandodari.
Mandodari, yes. So it was Mandodari was like lamenting Ravana's death when he was killed by Rama, and she mentioned, yeah, because like Sita was a chaste wife, she was so powerful that Ravana like couldn't have chance. So her I forgot her name again, but it's okay. So she, the wife of Ravana, Srila Prabhupada says in the purport, because she was also chaste wife, she could understand the power. It's like a mystic, like magical power of the chaste wife. So working on that. And anyway, why I say it here is like, because I think we have the tendency in the material world, the world of duality, to judge things as like black and white and good and bad, the duality. And also this is service and this is not a service. And just like not recently, I heard like it's a devotee woman and she has a family, and she says like, when I do service for Prabhupada and I go on Sankirtan. And I was like, I didn't say anything, but in my mind I was like, wait a moment, what is the rest? What is the rest of the time? Like serving the family, serving the children. And of course that can, like Grahashta, there is a difference between Grahashta and Grahamedi. So Grahamedi is having the family life for their own pleasure. I would say good luck with that. And then well, that is I'm a well-wisher, so I wish them good luck. And then the Grahashta is like seeing this is the position like I am in. If Krishna didn't want me to be in this position, I wouldn't be in this position. Would Krishna be happy if I left my family and little children and did only Harinam or go to Vrindavan in the temple? Probably not. So it's a service, and like how well can we remember? How well can we remember that it is a service and do it all in such a way that's pleasing to Krishna? That's the secret to success. So also the speech, like here we are really speaking about the speech, is like, okay, so speaking about Krishna, that's very clear. I'm speaking about Krishna, I'm chanting Hare Krishna. So it's very clear it's a service. I might have mixed motivation, but it's very clear. But maybe it looks completely different. I'm speaking about the weather with someone or about political situation with someone. And still the consciousness behind that can be a pure devotional service. So it's like a practice. So So the practice is mainly spoiled. I mean, in my experience, it's spoiled by anger. It's easy to practice when I'm emotionally peaceful, but when I'm attached to something and I get angry, then I forget, I wanted to serve Krishna in this relationship. I kind of want to throw plates and like things like this. So, and actually that's like a verse, like Arjuna asked Krishna in Bhagavad Gita, "O descendant of Vrishni, by what is one impelled to sinful acts, even unwillingly, as if engaged by force?" So sometimes, like I want to some degree to please Srila Prabhupada through like being a good wife, and then sometimes I feel like Arjuna, like unwillingly and by force being carried away somewhere completely else. And the blessed Lord said, "It is lust only, Arjuna, which is born of contact with the material modes of passion and later transformed into wrath, and which is the all-devouring sinful animal of this world." So how did lust happen? While contemplating the objects of the senses, a person develops attachment for them, and from such attachment lust develops, and from lust anger arises. So as soon as I start to think like I want to enjoy, as soon as that there is lust, and as soon as there is anger, and then with the anger, it's not possible. Then intelligence is lost, memory is bewildered, and there is a fall down from what we said we wanted to do, but the constant battle here is like, okay, do I want to please myself or do I want to please Srila Prabhupada and Krishna? So apart from that, okay, what time is it? It's good. So I made a little like, okay, like speaking. So like, how do we utilize the power of speaking when we are maybe not so much in the devotee association, right? Like it's not like a Alachua or Vrindavan everywhere. And so Hare Krishna. So like one thing is like speaking and another thing is listening. And like, I think it like relates really again, mostly to the consciousness that we bring to the conversation. So, because like, okay, obviously for most of us, it's not the service to move to Vrindavan and close ourselves in the temple and do like 24 hours bhajan every day, because it's not practical and we would probably fall down from that. So Srila Prabhupada didn't recommend to us this process. That he recommends us the process of utilization, yukta vairagya. And so, like, not like absolutely, like there are like things that need to be restrained, but most of things we have in life we can utilize in Krishna consciousness. And this bhakti yoga is an art how to do it. And so like, okay, so like someone comes to me and wants to speak with me. And maybe it's like somebody like my mother and she wants to complain about her neighbors, or she wants to gossip, or she wants to speak about politics or the weather, or she also gives me her schedule. Like she tells me like what she's going to do on the weekend, like going to the cottage with my dad and cut the grass. Like, okay. And I can go like, oh, mom, this is like Maya, this is Maya, and this is not the devotee association, what we are doing, so I will chop off my ears or something. Or I can really like think like how to utilize whatever she said to bring her closer to Krishna, that I am already associating with her. And that's fun. It's like engaging this speaking power in Krishna consciousness. And as soon as that, it's a service. And maybe I will not come with any brilliant idea what to say, but I already engage my mind in how and what to do. So that's perfect. And when I do it, I more and more likely get realizations. And maybe I don't get them immediately in the moment, but I can still think about it later. Like, okay, how could I have transformed the situation in such a way that it would bring everyone closer to Krishna? So I know that Dhira Govinda Prabhu likes to quote the letter from Srila Prabhupada. If we want to attract intelligent people, first we need to become a good listeners. So there is never like, whoever comes and wants to speak with us, they are like never wrong. Or I mean, to think like if that person was just like saying something else, then it would be easy to guide him in Krishna consciousness. So that will not really move us somewhere. And I printed the Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya and Lord Chaitanya pastime, because I think it's a very good example of that. So Lord Chaitanya doesn't say to Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, oh, you are such a Mayavad, I'm not going to listen to you. He's actually doing quite very interesting thing with Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya. So I don't have the number of the verses, but Lord Chaitanya says, I'm a young sannyasi and I actually have no knowledge of what is good and what is bad. Therefore, I am taking shelter of you and accepting you as my spiritual master. So that's interesting. See, Lord Chaitanya is going to preach. His plan is to preach to Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, but how he comes is like, I am young, I am inexperienced, please instruct me, give me your shelter. So that's Srila Prabhupada, when we speak about like teaching, how to utilize the power of speech in creating Krishna consciousness when there is not a proper speaker. And the first point is flattering. Flatter them a little or a lot or whatever it takes. Wow, you are so smart. You are my guru. Can you like tell me what? Wow, this is really brilliant. Did you think about it yourself? Anyway, so then we fast forward a little, and the disciples of Lord Chaitanya are explaining to Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya that Lord Chaitanya is Supreme Lord himself, but Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya doesn't believe it because the scriptures say that there is no incarnation in the Kali Yuga, so he doesn't believe it. And then the disciples of Lord Chaitanya come to Lord Chaitanya and they speak about it. The Bhattacharya statements were discussed before Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Gopinath Acharya and Mukunda Dat disapproved of the Bhattacharya statements because they caused mental pain. So Srila Prabhupada, in his purport to this verse 515, he speaks about the Vaidism and impersonalism and how Vidura and Maitreya, they are not interested in such topics because it causes mental pain. It's so painful to see someone who is impersonalist, it's really spiritual suicide to kill the relationship with Krishna for he's not there. And hearing this, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, do not speak like that. Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya has shown great affection and mercy toward me. So flattering and even flattering in front of others. That's the number one, Srila Prabhupada says. Out of paternal affection for me, he wants to protect me and see that I follow the regulative principles of a sannyasi. What fault is there in this? The next morning, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya together visited the temple of Lord Chankana. Both of them were in very pleasant mood. When they entered the temple, Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya offered Chaitanya Mahaprabhu a seat, while he himself sat down on the floor out of due respect for a sannyasi. He then began to instruct Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu on Vedanta philosophy, and out of affection and devotion, he spoke to the Lord as follows. The Bhattacharya said, hearing Vedanta philosophy as a sannyasi's main business. Therefore, without hesitation, you should study Vedanta philosophy, hearing it without cessation from a superior person. Lord Chaitanya replied, you are very merciful to me, and therefore I think it is my duty to obey your order. Thus, for 7 days, continually, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu listened to the Vedanta philosophy expounded by Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya. However, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu did not say anything and did not indicate whether it was right or wrong. He simply sat there and listened to the Bhattacharya. So he's listening to this for 7 days. That's dedication. I have to say that it's hard for me to listen to these things about the neighbors and whatever impersonalistic philosophy and like that even for a few moments. And like the disciples of Lord Chaitanya, it's caused mental pain. But then it can be a service. It can be a service to become the great listener. And first hear what the other one has to say. On the 8th day, Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya said to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, you have been listening to Vedanta philosophy from me continually for 7 days. You have simply been listening, fixed in your silence. Since you do not say whether you think it is right or wrong, I cannot know whether you are actually understanding Vedanta philosophy or not. So after 7 days and nights speaking, he asked for the first time the listener. That's amazing. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu replied, I am a fool, and consequently, I do not study the Vedanta Sutra. I am just trying to hear it from you because you have ordered me. Only for the sake of execution the duties of the renounced order of sannyasa do I listen. Unfortunately, I cannot in the least understand the meaning you are presenting. Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya replied, I accept that you do not understand, yet even one who does not understand inquires about the subject matter. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu then revealed his mind, saying, I can understand the meaning of each sutra very clearly, but your explanation have simply agitated my mind. Hare Krishna. So, as we know how the pastime unfolds, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu defends Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya in the philosophical discussion, and Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya surrenders to Lord Chaitanya with all his disciples and become a great devotee of the Lord. So I think, yeah, last point I want to make to this. So it's like, okay, maybe sometimes we will want to hear something we don't really want to hear, and it's a service. And as soon as I remember it's a service, then it's a service. So that's the wonderful thing about devotional service. As soon as I remember it's a service, it's a service. And so, and then the experience of the conversation is quite different. Then, like, kind of getting absorbed in it and participating in it and like thinking like I will get some gratification from this conversation. Interestingly, I thought like this week I'm thinking I need to get a friend. Like that's my like long-term thing. I want to have a good friend who lives nearby. And since I started to practice Krishna consciousness, it's not really happening. And I thought, I am just going to get like any friend. I don't care if they practice Krishna consciousness or not. And then yesterday and today I was preparing for the class and I was like, no, I don't want a mundane friend. I have like, there is one neighbor who is quite nice, but when I meet her on a walk and I speak with her for 10 minutes, that's like quite about enough for me. So anyway, it can be service. We can like do it as a service, and that's a different experience. And then also like there is the inner conversation. That's the last point I want to make, and that's the inner conversation. So internally, like how much I am engaged in the Krishna Katha or how much I am engaged in mundane topics. So, and that of course reflects also then externally, or in my consciousness and motivations. And so like one way I like to, I mean, Mother Malini, I think she shared it from the French monk maybe, but it doesn't matter that. Like, okay, I have some inner conversation that as soon as I remember Krishna, that he's there with me as the witness, I can start to speak to him, and then the same thing, but to him. Like, Krishna, I am like so disturbed and I am like so disappointed with my husband that he didn't clean the pots, and I'm tired. And then as soon as Krishna is there, I actually very quickly also experience like transformation in whatever drama is going on inside of me. So that's the way how we can like also like use the principle of utilization. Like, okay, I'm like going through some like difficult decision-making process, or like daily schedule, or all sorts of things having on my plate. But then like I can like, instead of like speaking it to myself, I can speak it to Krishna. And I have been practicing it, and I am really not at all successful. But what I do instead is that I write letters to Srila Prabhupada every day. So I have a special notebook for letters to Srila Prabhupada, like the disciples before 77 were writing him letters. So I can do it also. And that's really a wonderful way for me to like connect with Srila Prabhupada, remember him, and like utilize all that's going on in my life in like connect, like bringing myself closer to Srila Prabhupada and Krishna. So I have like the other class also, but I think I will leave it for another time when we do the second round of Srimad Bhagavatam. And we will be back on the verse 3, 5, 15. Hare Krishna. I will read the verse again. Tatasya kosharava sharma datur hare katam eva kata susaram udritya pushpedya ivarta bando shivaya nah kirtaya tirta kirte. O Maitreya, O friend of the distressed, the glories of the Supreme Lord can alone do good for people all over the world. Therefore, just as bees collect honey from flowers, kindly describe the essence of all topics, the topics of the Lord. Hare Krishna. So, if you have any comments, questions, realizations, sharings, anyone would like to put on the table, virtual table.
Hare Krishna, Hladini, Shakti Prabhu. Thank you for your class. You had so much fun reading the dialogue between Lord Chaitanya and Sarvabhauma and Padacharya. It was hard to contain, huh?
I know it's too much fun. And I already read it before when I was looking for the verses.
So much fun. And I was thinking, going back to the beginning of your class or towards the beginning of your class, like, at the end of life, like just tuning in to Krishna and zooming in, like, okay, Krishna. And if it makes the time of death so sweet. Like it's such a transformation as a Vaishnav. The relationship with death is so transformed that it's it makes something to look forward to, or something to to prepare for, and at the same time to to be curious about, and it's just such a different relationship with death.
Yes, thank you for sharing. As soon as you said that, like, it's like the thing to do at the time of death, I thought, like, yeah, the Vaishnav can look forward that finally they can just focus on Krishna and not all the things around.
Letting go, yeah. Like Bhishma, they completely let go of everything else, and it's not like there was nothing to take care of for him. Of course, he did take care of Yudhishthira Maharaj and, like that, but also it's just, okay, like, I'm done now. I close the door to the mundane world, and I'm just with Krishna.
Yeah, he took care for Yudhishthira Maharaj, but then after that, he fixed his eyes on Krishna. My understanding also after that, he didn't really care for Yudhishthira Maharaj.
Exactly, yeah. Exactly.
Yes. Jai, thank you for sharing. That's exciting, that perspective of looking forward for death. If you have some time to prepare, though.
No obligation.
Well, it's looking forward to that, like in modern society, like so like we should be worried you're suicidal and like that. And actually, kind of like in modern social work culture, it's like, we need to take special measures, because if someone wants you to take special measures. But it's just on the devotional platform, like it's healthy in the most joyful way. It's just like I thought in terms of, okay, let's say if someone is in high school, 17 years old, and let's say it's a rare situation where they're actually thriving in high school. Almost everyone's miserable in high school, actually. But okay, let's say they're thriving, and then at the same time, again, let's say this is a very sattvic person. Like, yeah, I'm really looking forward to college. I'm really looking forward to college. yeah, I'm eagerly anticipating the closure of high school and looking forward to go to university. And so like, oh, you want to it's like you're miserable in high school. Well, no, I'm doing my service here and I'm learning and I appreciate the social life and I'm looking forward. So that's the devotee, like in this in this body, hayasya hridasya parmanamanasagira nikilasvatyavastasu jivan muktasu chite. This body serving Krishna. I really like the examples you gave, and doing their service in their occupation, in their family, in their sadhana, and they're joyful. They're actually blissful in that. And then we think of death. Oh, the next chapter. I'm really looking forward to that. So it's all wonderful, and it's increasingly wonderful to the extent that we're like the consciousness of the kitten in the jaws of the cat, like that. I really like the examples you gave, throughout the class, right at the beginning. Yeah, like with like Arjuna, that's the class. Like he in a sense, he wants to go to the forest. Vrindavan is a forest. Okay, like that. So, but then his service, then he got his service is to pick up the bow. And then you gave the example of Bharat Maharaj, and I like that comparison with Bharat Maharaj and Arjuna. I'm taking that with me, right? Just like, Krishna explained, look, you're gonna fight anyway. You'll find some sages in the forest and you'll protect them, like that. So with Bharat Maharaj, he was like young and had a whole kingdom, but he was deeply Krishna conscious, renounced it, went to the forest. But you brought that point that I haven't thought about. Like, he still had in him that you're going to protect some living entity. You're going to protect some living entity. So in his case, it was this deer. That's your nature. You're going to protect some living entity. And so in some ways, in that pastime, he wasn't completely complete when he left the kingdom. He still had some protective dharma to do for Krishna. Yeah, and then the point about, so like there's like, let's call it that direct, okay, like the direct vibration, the direct, like kirtan or japa or reading Bhagavatam. And sometimes we might be engaged in other vibrations because we have material attachment. But sometimes if we're engaging other vibrations or other paraphernalia, example, like, okay, so I don't know what the means of, I don't have realization of the means of transport in Vaikuntha or Goloka Vrindavan. They have their carriages, whatever. It's all spirit. It's Chintamani atoms. It's all spiritual. Okay. And it's like here, but like if we're driving a car to go to share Bhagavad Gita, to book distribution, that car becomes spiritual. It's not spiritual in the same way like Chintamani atoms, but Prabhupada used the example like it becomes like gold. There's gold, pure gold, then there's gold plated. But the steering wheel, the tires, they become spiritualized. So like we can imagine, okay, let's say when we do our sadhana, like here, Bhagavatam, japa, so we're engaged in that direct gold like that. But then, okay, so is that more Krishna conscious than let's say, I don't know, 1938, and Srila Prabhupada, he's running his pharmacy. We can imagine he engaged in business talks. He engaged in, how are you doing? How's your son doing? Engaged in talks like that. So you say it's like it wasn't like every customer who came in, he's chanting japa with them, right? So it's like, okay, so that talk, is that less Krishna conscious than when we're chanting japa? No, we can be quite sure when Prabhupada's engaging in that sort of talk, that because he's so deeply intentional in serving Krishna in this conversation, serving Srila Bhaktisiddhanta, that even though the words might appear mundane, it's So, like it's ultimately the consciousness, and to cultivate that consciousness, to be able to realize how to respond and utilize everything in Krishna consciousness, then we're encouraged to connect with that direct gold with strong morning program like that. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you for sharing the Govinda Prabhu. Yeah, like when you spoke about the death, I was thinking like how tamas and transcendence are like so near to each other. It's like so hard to like, I mean, on one hand distinctions are very clear, but on the other hand it's like, yeah, like I want to die, and it can be like complete tamas depression, or it can be so yeah. Yes. And yeah, and the same thing like with the utilization, like the boundary, like whether it's like complete tamas or like transcendence.
Yeah.
Again, like, oh yeah, I'm like utilizing this relationship or this job or whatever in service to Krishna, but really it's just like tamas. But I guess experientially there is a great difference.
Yeah, like on the one side, there's like, okay, not seeing the connection of all the energies, all the music, all the in everything in the cities, all relation, not seeing the connection with Krishna. So that's a lack of realization. And there's that purport in the Bhagavatam where Prabhupada said, if one sees everything as Mayas rather than seeing everything as Krishna, then that's like an offensive mentality. Right? It's impersonalism. We're not seeing the person behind everything. Then the other thing, which you're alluding to, is like, if I'm in that artificial transcendence, the spiritual bypass, where it's like, yeah, this weed I'm smoking, it's Krishna's energy, which is true. Okay, which is true. But then I don't really have realization how to relate to it in such a way where it's actually inspiring me and others deeper in our remembrance of who we are as spirit, soul, servant of Krishna. So that becomes false realization. So, it becomes about like knowing ourselves and like, how much to enter into the quote material energy with true grounded confidence to be able to transform it into spiritual energy. And if we're overconfident, we'll make a fool of ourselves and we'll drown in the ocean. At the same time, for most all of us, we're not meant to like go into a cave at Radhakund and chant 180 rounds per day.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Any other comments, sharings? Okay. And Srimad Bhagavatam. Well, Kim, I see you.
Sorry.
Okay. Yes. Please.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I just want to thank you for class. I really enjoyed it, and I related to a lot of the things you said. I don't know, so many of the things really, but your relationship with your mother and trying to, instead of making angst with her, when she says something, you try to bring it to a spiritual thing and just treasuring that relationship as important. I mean, that's how I heard you, and trying to spiritualize it. And that's something that's always in my life too. And I really appreciated hearing that from you. And I don't know, just so many things. You started out, we were talking about, just chanting outside with the animals and everything is a service. And I always feel that, like I get to take the class a lot of times outside with my animals, and I know they're hearing it. And I always notice Rosie, particularly when the chanting is going on or any of the Sanskrit songs, she looks at the phone, like she really concentrates on it. Whereas I have the phone on all day. I listen to a lot of media on the phone, and she doesn't. So I see that. I don't know. So many of the things you said. And I don't know, another thing you talked about was just how, I don't know, it made me think of it. I don't know exactly how you said it, but it made me think of it, how spiritual things never get old. And so many things in this world do get old to us, you know, years and years and years of them. And, you know, like I never want to hear a song from the 80s again. I'm like done with any songs from the 80s, you know, whereas I hear a spiritual song I've been listening to since the 80s, you know, Govinda prayers or something, and it never gets old, you know, and you can feel it's just a totally different thing, you know. Anyway, I just appreciate your class. I just wanted to say that, really.
Yeah,
All right, thank you.
Thank you for your appreciation and sharing, Kim. You sound enthusiastic. And I'm very glad that Rosie was also listening to the class. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna to Rosie.
Yes.
And Nandini, I saw you had your hand up.
Yes, Hare Krishna. Thank you, Hladini. I was a bit slow with like using my device here to speak before you wanted to end. I did want to share. I feel inspired by so many things you shared, and especially what you said about that sometimes, I mean, I know that from myself, that I think, oh, I would, if I could just go to the forest or just, you know, like chant or read and not deal with other duties in life. And then to hear that, yeah, like we can give ourselves fully to all the duties we have and trust that at the time of death, you know, it's like sometimes I think, well, but I need to practice to think of Krishna. But actually doing all my duties and endeavoring to remember Krishna in all of that, that's the practice for the time when we leave our body. And to trust that, yeah, like when that time comes and I'm preparing for it, endeavoring for it, circumstances will be, I don't know, somehow helpful to remember Krishna.
Yeah.
So,
Thank you for sharing, Nandini. I hear you are connecting with trust, that you are at the right place at the right time, and that it doesn't like have to change or look different, that you can like practice Krishna consciousness throughout your day and give fully, give really fully to all your, you know, all your teaching and mothering and being a wife and every coaching, like you can give fully to that, like in such a way that's pleasing to Krishna, not pleasing to him when we give like 10% or 50% to like through our duties, and then remembering him in them and trusting. Yeah.
And you just mentioned it, like, okay, so being a wife, I my ears went really big when you were starting to speak about that, because it's something I think about a lot, and I would like to learn more, hear more, and discuss more about this. Yeah, okay. What's the service as a wife?
Hare Krishna. So I got this book from Damayanti a few years ago, Empowered
Wife.
Krishna Conscious Wife.
Oh, okay.
I got it years back, and I was so triggered by it that I kind of threw it somewhere. But now I got back to it, and it's really wonderful. Maybe we could do a little reading club.
Yeah, good idea.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, thank you.
Okay, so now I think I can do it. Vantara Shrima Bhagavatam ki jai. Prabhupada ki jai.
Hare
Krishna. Thank you everyone for listening.
Thank you for your class, Hladini. Hare Krishna.